Runpreneur vlog, and today I have my amazing good friend Mr. Neil Marsh with me. Now this is one of the most inspirational runners that I know. He is a podcaster. He has a podcast all about ultra running. It's called the Ultra Running Podcast. He owns his own gym where he specialises in helping runners with their strength and conditioning training, and he is probably one of the most seasoned ultra marathon runners that I know. So I'll introduce you and then I'll tell you a little bit about the challenge. So thank you for joining me, Mr. Neil Marsh. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Kev. Very good. Very well.
Well, this vlog, as always, is part of the Runpreneur Challenge, which is our mission to save the lives of children by raising £1 million for 6 amazing children's charities, which between them cover the whole spectrum of issues affecting children on a global scale. And we do this by run vlogging on consecutive days the distance of one lap around the world. So to put it in perspective, that's 12 years worth of consecutive daily running, at least 5 kilometres. I have to vlog whilst doing it, and I do it barefoot style. It's 40,075 kilometres, just shy of 25,000 miles. And again, to put it in perspective, it's 4,292 consecutive days of running. So that's the intro done. So first and foremost, I want to ask you, Neil, about your running achievements. So tell me about some of the biggest races you've done and your experience with them.
So my 2 biggest achievements for me are an Ironman triathlon, which, for those that don't know, would be 2.4 mile swim, followed by a 112 mile bike ride, and then a marathon. So for me, the idea of running a marathon after being on a bike for 8 hours was just this challenge that I never thought I'd achieve. But in reality, the hard work paid off and I managed to do it back in 2015. And then from that point, I thought, I want to go on. So I took on ultra running, and thus far I've done a 70 mile ultra. However, did DNF it, so did not finish the 2016, learned what I'd done wrong, what I could do better, and then went back in 2017 and completed the 70 mile ultra marathon. In terms of other achievements, it's not actually an event, but I did something which is known in the ultra running world as the accumulator. And what that entails is whatever date it is in a month, that's how many miles you run. So, for example, on the 1st, you used to do 1 mile. On the 25th, you do 25, 26th, 27th, so on, until you complete the month. So, I did that in June 2020, and a 30-day month. I was grateful for that.
Well, just to put that into perspective, obviously I do a lot of running myself, and that accumulator scares me immensely. I mean, the thought of, that you start off nice and easily, but the last week you're doing, those last 4 days, 26 miles, 27 miles, 28 miles, 29 miles, and 30 miles. I mean, that's just 5 days worth of marathons. It's, how did you get through that?
Well, firstly, I took the time off work because, I'd never done anything like it before, multi-day running, and it was just a case of get up in the morning, start that process, tick 1 mile at a time, did a block of 4, back to refuel, and go up for another sort of 6 miles or so, refuel, and just kept doing that until it was done. Then when it was done, jump in the ice bath, bit of recovery, and then kind of relax for the rest of the day, the rest of the evening. I have to be honest on that achievement. I was in a situation due to the pandemic at the time where I was actually living alone, so it didn't require, there wasn't a lot of other things to do, and my business was closed as well, but we were teaching online. But I had staff that were doing some of those sessions. So I did have that recovery at the end of any given day to then recover for the next one. And it was just get the calories back in and go again.
Well, I think just for people that don't know you, Neil, I'm not used to calling you Neil, I'm so used to calling you Marshy, or Coach Marshy as you're known by so many, is that you've had a real kind of love-hate relationship with running. I mean, some of the achievements you've made, that accumulator for one, you've done a running streak, I think you got to 404 days of consecutive running, if I'm not mistaken. But
yeah,
you help so many people in the running community, me in particular, so many others. I mean, there's hundreds, probably thousands to count for. And quite often, sometimes you don't get the help that you need as a runner, because you know, tell us a little bit about some of the tough times you've had with your love-hate relationship with running.
So love-hate, I was that kid at school, hated cross country. So it wasn't in my life until adult life. And then I sort of dabbled with it back in 2008, and then decided to do a half marathon in 2009. And it was all a bit of a struggle, really. Kind of thought it would be something to achieve, something to do, and then went off to uni and kind of hit rock bottom in my final year. I'm sure we'll come on to that in a bit, but after that, I then used running as a weight loss tool, in a way to transform my life. And you never ever get over it in terms of sort of the daily battles that you can have around certain mental health issues and certain situations. So then, as a runner, you kind of having those up days, those down days, but over a longer period, you end up finding yourself barely running at all. When you completed an Ironman the year before, or a 70-mile ultra, and then you're not out running at all. And what I found is that my natural journey always improves and always moves forward when I've got the natural next step challenge. So for example, I actually started at half marathon before I actually took part in any 10Ks, and then went to Olympic distance triathlon, then marathon, half Ironman, which has a half marathon at the end, then a 50-mile ultra, then a 70-mile DNF, and then a 70-mile completion. And throughout that process, there were moments that were really tough. You know, like, you just didn't want to run. And you go out for a run, do a couple of miles, and all you'd think was, hold on, I couldn't do a marathon now under any circumstances. But the truth is, I could, because I had that challenge each time. So those highs and lows have been pretty epic, I would say. It's been a pretty good journey in terms of helping me from the coaching side of things, because I've gone through those moments of struggle and those dark days when you don't want to get out, but you've had to. And normally the difference between success and failure literally comes when it's down to there being a challenge at the end of it, or something that you're working towards.
Okay, no, that's really, really important there. You talk about setting yourself challenges and the importance of them to your running. And what fascinates me, well, fascinate might not be the right word, but what amazes me is that this shows the impact of how mental health can affect runners and how running can help you pull through this. I mean, I'm talking to Marshy here. He has done some of the hardest events. I mean, a month accumulator, 404-day running streak, 70-mile ultramarathon. I mean, they are not for the faint-hearted. And I know, having hit the wall many times myself, you know, how challenging that puts you through mentally. So Marshy's shown unbelievable mental resilience. to kind of come through those challenges. But then equally, there's been times where he hasn't had the motivation or the drive to even get up and run. And that just shows the whole spectrum of kind of the mental side of running and the importance of challenges. So how did you pull yourself through those bad times, Marshy? Because, you know, I for one, you know, I'm going to try and hold you accountable a lot more, because I know how amazing you are as an ultra runner. But when you've got a challenge and you've got people behind you, because you support so many, perhaps don't often get the support that you need. And what would you say to anybody who's going through tough times? How can they pull themselves through to get back on the upward curve? Because that's where you are at the moment. You're not anywhere near the top of your fitness levels where you've been in the past, but you're on the way back up. And I have no doubt you're going to get there, but you appreciate that it's a journey. So what would you say to those people who are currently going through tough times with running?
So surround yourself with people is the answer. For me, my whole coaching process. Just hold it in, Marsh. We'll just get past this tractor. It's the joys of running in the fens. Is you don't know what you're going to come across in nature. So sorry, Marsh, you carry on. So the answer to that is people. Surround yourself with people that are going to promote you to be the best version of yourself. And that sounds really cliche, I know. And you'll go on social media, you go on the internet, and you'll see memes and things saying that. But it really does work. And my whole coaching process is based around community. So at High Runners and when I'm doing my coaching at my gym, we always promote the community and the family feel. And people arrive as strangers and they leave as lifelong friends. And when you're surrounded by that community, when you have those dark days, because of the amount of people there are, there's normally someone that can make you accountable. So for example, if I look at a group that I run with on a Wednesday, it unfortunately is not as consistent as it was. But prior, you know, a few years back, there were 7 of us. And if 5 couldn't run, 1 would be able to. And that would make me go on a dark day, because you didn't want to let your friend down that you were meeting. So for me, the obvious answer is people. But if you can't, and you're not able to meet anyone, then you need to really do some work on your why, and what are your reasons for it, and what's your passion around running. You know, because I'm sure you find it, Kev, as well. You don't meet many people that love running. There's normally an ulterior motive as to why they're doing it. And a lot of time, that'll be based around challenge. So they've got a London Marathon place on the ballot, never run a mile in their life. But because of that challenge, they manage to do what they need to do in order to get round. And when I remove that challenge, there are, without a doubt, more dark days than when there's a challenge at the end of it.
Well, just on that point, I mean, I've known Marshy a long time, and first and foremost, I'll second the importance of having people around you. And Marshy is the founder of the High Runners, which is Histon and Impington Runners, which is my running club. It's the most supportive group of people you could ever meet in your life, and that's my personal experience. I mean, some of the people there are amazing, and what Marshy's built there, and with the support of so many others, has been nothing short of amazing. And I feel the need to say that because I feel so strongly about it personally. But on the second point about challenges, the running club, there's always people that will lift you up when you're struggling, and there's always people that will help you with the next challenge. And that's why I've set Marshy a challenge, because you know, everybody knows that I'm on this crazy mission now to do 4,292 consecutive days running. I'm on day 442 today, I think. So I'm over 10% of the way there. But I won't get through it without the support of others. And I'm holding Marshy accountable for doing his own running streak, because we had a conversation a while back, and I'm going to ask you this again, just to hold you accountable. So you've got people who've got witnessed this. Like Neil Marsh has done, I think, 3 year-long running streaks, right? So he's done a year-long, consecutive days worth of running, 365 days, I think, on 3 times.
14, 17 and 20.
And he's done one, the furthest he got was 404 days. And I asked him, so Marshy, why did you stop?
So I would say I now know the answer to that, but didn't know it when you asked me all those weeks ago. I wasn't clear. So I gave it some thought. And you know what, Kev, you've said it, and as a coach I would always say it, perhaps running every day is publicised as quite a negative thing to do, and certainly not recommended. And I wouldn't always recommend that as a coach. But to those that run regularly, running a mile, running 5k every day, we are capable of it. And I think what happened is lots of people got in my head. We were in a pandemic, 2020 had drawn to an end, started the new year, 10 miles on New Year's Day, and then did a recovery on the Saturday, 3 miles, and then said, oh, better have a rest tomorrow. I better just have a rest day.
Put that in perspective, that's after 404 days of consecutive running. So not at one point during that period of time did he think, oh, I need a rest day. Well, he probably did, but he managed to pull himself through it. And my argument is that I think there's always a little bit of an inner competitor in many of us. And some people, if you use it to your advantage, it can be a real strength, just as it can be a weakness. But I'm here sitting on 442 days now, and I'm here thinking, right, if I quit now, I've just devalued the blood, sweat and tears I put into the last 442 days. So in my gut feeling is I'll never stop this. Okay, now I don't want to say never. I'll stop it when my body makes me stop it. But why would I stop? Because I've put so much blood, sweat and tears, and the longer I do it, the more powerful that streak is to me. And we talk about what Marshy just said there, which is really important, about it's not recommended to run every day. But I'm launching a challenge at the moment called the Runpreneur Red Challenge, which is run every day. Now, I don't actually mean you have to run every day. It's a 30, 90 or 365 day challenge or beyond, where I want people to do just 1 mile a day, run or walk. And the reason I do this is there's obviously a lot of publicity about the cognitive benefits for school children. I mean, you see the mile a day at school everywhere. Now, obviously they get their weekends off, but they do a mile a day because it improves their mental cognitive function during a school day. Okay, and some of them run it, some of them walk it, and that's all I'm asking is people just to give it a chance. 30 days, 90 days, or 365 days, or beyond, or keep because you hold me accountable and support me along the way, as I hope to do for you. But I promise you, the positive benefits you'll have from it are just phenomenal. I mean, there's no coincidence that some of the most successful moments in my life have happened in these last 442 days. And that's no coincidence. That's when I started running every day. Okay, I'm a bit more extreme, but all I'm asking people is to say 1 mile. If you can't run it, walk it. But it's promoting movement and active life, which is you can get positivity from just that 1 mile. And for you, Marshy, I want to ask you another deep question, because you've seen both sides to this. If you were going to summarise why you run, how would you summarise that?
Oh, I don't know if the vlog's long enough. So, why do I run? So first and foremost, I did it for weight loss originally. But while I was trying to achieve that goal, I actually realised there was another benefit. And it wasn't personal bests, it wasn't running the furthest I could, it was my mental well-being, my mental health, and it completely changed. And to echo what you've said, during this challenging time, over the last decade or so, of like progressing on, doing these big events, some of the best stuff, non-running related, has happened to me in that time. And I don't think that's a coincidence either. But also, the amount of places that I've been because of running, like, most people we know probably will never go to Africa. But I went to Africa and ran a marathon because I was part of a bigger challenge, and that was unreal, and that was exciting, and I'd have never been to Sierra Leone otherwise. And I think for me the biggest take home from my last decade or so, why I run, is my mental health, because I had a lot of doubters at the beginning of this year, and I'm not going to displace onto anyone else, you know, take responsibility. I was eating too much, I was alone at home due to work commitments. My partner and child had to move out in order for us to even survive in the pandemic financially. And I stopped running in January, a month after they'd moved out for the second time. And because people told me, oh, you need a rest day, Marshy, you're pushing it, you're doing too much. And I listened. Well, I'll tell you what happened as a result. I deteriorated fast with my mental health. The weight gain was unbelievable. 4 stone from January through to sort of early May this year. And I absolutely deteriorated with my inner thoughts and ended up in this really dark place that I'd only ever been once before, back in 2009 when I was at university. And if the result of me quitting, because that's what it was a choice, the result of me stopping that streak was poor mental health, 4 stone weight gain, and a diagnosed non-alcoholic fatty liver, I think it's safe to say, no matter what the impact injuries may have been, I think it's safe to say I'd have probably been better carrying on that run streak. And I've now started that again as part of the Runpreneur Red Challenge, and the last 36 days I've started to become the person that I believe I am in that time. So why do I run? Hopefully that's quite a concise answer.
That's an amazing answer, and this is why, you know, and please don't take this, you know, from a negative perspective, but this is why I find you so amazingly inspirational, is that you've seen both sides, right? You see, you know, you're the most supportive fitness instructor I've ever met, and I've met many. The people you help, how you help them, is second to none in my opinion. But the reason people, I think, resonate with you is you have the weight challenges, you have the mental health battles. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, your super stacked fitness instructor doesn't, but I think there's a lot of people that can resonate more with you and will learn from the other side from you, and that can really be super powerful, because you've done some, like I say, some of the epic achievements in ultra running, but you've also been in a position health-wise, mentally and physically, where you haven't been able to run. And there's a real learning experience, because I always think you learn more from your failures than you do your successes. So when you've failed, we haven't actually failed, but when you've stopped, it feels like a failure, but you learn so much from that journey of, you know, dropping from where you were and then building yourself back up. And we know we're under no illusions you're on your way back up now, and I'm personally going to hold you accountable as a friend, because you've helped me so much, and I want to make sure that I get you back to where you belong, because when you're fully firing on all cylinders, it's an unbelievable sight, and I've seen you at both sides. So that to me is why I find you super inspirational. You've also got another mission though in running, and you've dedicated your life to sports and fitness. You understand the topic of running, and in particular strength and conditioning for runners, for ultra runners. So tell us about how that kind of came about, what your mission is for that. And I think there's a big race somewhere on the horizon that you're building up to as well. So if you can explain that to me.
So first things first, I think it's fair to state that people are fans of sports, football, rugby, tennis, cricket, golf. I'm a fan of ultra running. first and foremost. I'm a massive fan of individuals, little groups, and big races. And I follow it and I watch it live and I absorb it and I enjoy it. But then there's an element of wanting to pay it forward, because that's my journey in the fitness industry, paying forward that weight loss, that emotional kind of gains from running, the mental health side. So I love running and I'm a fan of ultra running, and within that there's so many components to success. Now, if you're like Kev and I and you live in Cambridgeshire, you are going running and your Strava, Garmin, whatever you use, is telling you that you've got zero elevation. There's no ultra runs out there that have got zero elevation, even our more local ones here. So how do we combat that? And how would we work on that if we haven't got the time, finances, or ability to go and stay somewhere with hills and mountains? So strength and conditioning for runners becomes really important in ultra running. And effectively, if we just strip it back, what we're doing is we're talking about variability in human movement and the biomechanical setup of people. So what I mean by that is, if you all of a sudden do some hill training, all of a sudden do some sprint training, even start using barefoot shoes as a tool, or do some step ups on a box, do some yoga, Pilates class, spinning class, effectively you are strength and conditioning, because you are moving your ankle, knee and hip joint outside of the normal range of motion for straight line running that you would find on most typical runners' runs. So you're stepping outside of that range of motion. And the truth is, on these bigger runs, you're going to go up mountains, you're going to go through certain fields, different terrains, where you'll be tested. And if you haven't done that work, that's not only going to test you, but it's probably going to break you. Whereas the conditioning element would allow you to deal with that a lot easier. So you'd be able to pass through a wooded area with a big tree stump laying across the footpath, because you've been up and down that step box hundreds of times at different heights. So you can just move past it like it was just a normal object on the road. And that's why I'm passionate about it, is because in running we get injured quite easily, and normally that's because the volume has increased too quickly, or the training variability has increased too quickly, and the result of that is injury. So if we then do strength conditioning, that takes that threshold up, and we're just continually increasing that threshold. So my mission is to get that message across to as many recreational runners as possible within the ultra marathon world, so that they can enjoy all those other benefits that hopefully came across earlier as to why you would run. And then in terms of that one big race that for me on the horizon, I now feel like I'm actively working towards what is known as the World Cup of running, in my eyes, or one of the World Cups of running, and that is the Western States. The Western States 100-mile foot race in America. And that race, along with UTMB, so the Ultra Marathon Trail Mont Blanc in France, those two events are by far the biggest part of the ultra running calendar for the elite. enjoyable, but it is also something that I can then understand and then program and help pay that forward to others.
Well, that's amazing, Marshy. And my commitment to you for what you've helped me is I'm going to help you on this journey. I'm going to try and make sure I hold you accountable. I pick you up when you need picking up, and you stay on this journey. And this running every day process is just the first step, because I know you're going to achieve it. I know you're going to do that. I know you're going to help so many recreational runners become ultra runners, and they're going to be successful ultra runners because of the knowledge you're going to pass on to them and help them. So that, to me, again, truly inspirational. So let's draw it to a close there, but thank you so much, Marshy. Truly inspirational, and no doubt we'll be having several of these runs in the future where we'll be picking your brains for more hints and tips and advice. So thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Kev. Thanks for having me.
And I always end it with stay positive, stay happy, and see you tomorrow.